All right, welcome back to another episode of Take Back My Brain. I'm your host, Laurie Hammer, and I have a repeat guest today, which I'm very excited about. His name is Josh Dech. So I want you to go back and listen to this past episode that we had previous because we're having a lot of foundational things. And today we're going to dive into more all things gut. And Josh is an expert in gut health, and I deeply respect him. So pay attention, take notes, share, like, subscribe, do all those beautiful things, and just enjoy this episode because life and death really begins in the gut. I'm all about the brain, like balance your brain first, and then the gut gets easier to heal. But, they both go back and forth. And so brain affects your gut, gut affects your brain. And so I'm really excited to dive deeper. So Josh, thanks for being here today.
Laurie, thanks so much for having me back again. I'm so glad the first was so beneficial to your listeners. We're happy to expand on this and bring more information to it. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah. So, you mentioned, vaginal births, breastfeeding. I would love to kind of segue into that. I have a lot of moms that listen to this. So why is that so important? Why is why is that important?
Well, I'll preface first because I've come under fire before. I'm very much like straight to the point, fix it logical. My wife loves that
Yeah.
about me. I'm a great listener. So what I have to say is there are some situations where vaginal birth and breastfeeding is medically not an option. That's okay. We can get as close to. There's something called vaginal seeding, where if it's a C-section birth, you can actually a couple hours before birth soak a gauze to stick it in the vagina, let it sit there, soak up microbes and all kinds, and rub the baby's body down. That's been shown to possibly be beneficial.
Yes.
Donor milk, if you can't get that, there are milk banks. And of course, there are better options for formula out there than just like your Johnson and Johnson and other stuff full of seed oils and inflammatory junk. So there's always a spectrum of better to worse. Get as good as you can. But the importance of vaginal birth, number one, coming through the birth, we used to think, let's back it up even further. We used to think that the placenta was sterile, or the baby's actually growing inside the womb.
Right.
We no longer
It's
believe it is.
not.
We know it's not sterile. It's teeming with microbes. And you actually share, what's really interesting is mom actually develops leaky gut during pregnancy. Now, we think leaky gut's bad, but it has its medicinal uses. Leaky gut, in a traditional sense, is a defense mechanism where your body opens the floodgates to draw water in to flush things out. If you've ever eaten something and 10 minutes later you've got diarrhea in the bathroom, that's leaky gut to flush things out, like putting your thumb over the hose to wash a driveway. Now, what happens with mom during pregnancy, she actually increases her proteobacterium, bifidobacterium, lactobacilli. These are the ones that actually see the baby's gut first. And we see this actually changing and modifying during first, second, third trimester. Mom's microbiome actually changes. Her gut becomes permeable, allowing more microbes to travel around the body. And so this transplacement of microbes can actually reach the baby as well. And they share a blood supply through what's called microchimerism. Now, what's interesting about that is about 33% of all the metabolites, these are the byproducts floating around in blood, are actually like postbiotic bacterial or byproducts. So they're made by bacteria. And so what's happening through this process, it can help explain some of the chronic inflammatory markers that maybe elevate in pregnant women, that doctors maybe treat it like it's a disease, that, oh, you're inflamed, you have these problems. No. The body's doing that deliberately to allow more things to transfer and permeate to the baby. It actually can create, this is the difference between insulin resistance a little bit, which is normal in pregnancy, versus diabetes. But it actually shunts blood or food away from mom's cells into the baby because the baby will absorb them if mom's not. And so it's actually a very beautifully designed process that's very natural and normal to feed and grow a baby. So all these microbes start from mom, they seed, they transfer around, they get into the baby right away. And even studying fetal meconium, which is like baby stool and womb, they see bacteria. So that's number one. And if mom has healthy microbes, she gives them healthy to baby. We have seen some instances where babies are born within a couple of months, they have bloody stools and colitis. That typically comes from mom. And not to blame mom, she doesn't know. But we see a lot of pregnant women. This is a huge caution. If you have gut issues and you're trying to get pregnant, please work on yourself first, because all these things will transfer to baby. Moms who have candida issues and don't know it. I met with a woman recently, a lot of acne, she's overweight, a lot of cravings, joint pains, clear signs of candida, nail fungus, the works, a lot of history of mastitis while she was breastfeeding. It was fungus, and her baby's got gut issues because they absorbed all that extra fungus overgrowth. All right, so there's a lot there we have to be mindful of. So there's a lot of prep in pregnancy, but that's number one, is pre-birth. Number two, the microbes that they get coming through the birth canal actually coats the whole face, the mouth, the whole body, head to toe. This is the first seeding of these really beneficial lactobacillus. We have Reuteri and rhamnosus and all these good ones, which are vaginally native, which cover the baby. That's the first inoculation of microbes. Well, I should say second to in utero. And
Right.
so as they come through, if they skip that and they go through this first seeding, whatever seeds first will take, if you're C-section, what's on the doctor's glove? What are you getting out of the hospital that's
Yeah.
seeding instead of what's natural through the birth canal? And so we have to consider that. Number three, right away, the first thing that happens when baby starts breastfeeding, one, it's a huge oxytocin release, which actually builds,
Mhm.
a maternal bonding and all kinds of stuff. But that first 3 days of breastfeeding lays down colostrum, these thick, like turf-like layers of nutrients and microbes and all these things, which like seeding a brand new meadow, covering this turf in the baby's gut, preparing it to grow to an Amazon rainforest. That
Right.
comes in. It's the importance of breastfeeding. And there are dozens and dozens of probiotics and prebiotics and nutrients. Like breast milk is the one food on planet Earth that humans could live on for the rest of their lives until death. The one
Mhm.
food. There's actually an interesting painting. I forget who did it, hundreds of years old. It's actually a painting of a man in a jail cell sticking his head through the rails, breastfeeding. And the
Oh,
story, I don't know if you've ever seen
I
that.
have
He's a
not seen
grown
that. I have to
man.
look it up.
The whole story is that, so again, it's hearsay, but it's an interesting story, is that this man, his daughter was actually just had a baby, and she would come to visit him in the prison every single day. The guards were going to starve him as part of his torture and whatever they were punishing him for. And he actually took from her milk. He actually breastfed off his own daughter and survived. It was like a year or 2 years. This man had never actually eaten, but
Wow.
he had consumed breast milk. And the guards, apparently the story goes that they're so moved by this bond between the father and daughter and their willingness to sacrifice themselves, they ended up letting him go. But there's a painting you can see of this. And so it is the most nutritious food on earth.
Mhm.
And the baby gets that right away. On the other hand, there's formula. Now, the FDA recently made it mandatory, believe it or not, to have seed oils like canola oil or
I
something
know.
else in these foods, which we know are directly linked to diseases. So you get babies now, babies, brand new babies, who are instead being inoculated with toxins rather than nutrients. They're inoculated with inflammatory things rather than healing things. Their immune systems are being compromised rather than built right out of the gate,
Yep.
which is it's evil as far as I'm concerned. And so some women have no choice. You have to formula feed, and that's okay. But there are baby probiotics you can get. There are better quality formulas. There are donor banks and all kinds of systems being
Yeah.
set up now where you can get some of that. Sometimes it can be very expensive, so there are limitations. But the idea is do the best you can, knowing
Mhm.
with the knowledge that you have now. And that's the best we can do. If we go in and refuse to take the knowledge, then it's a choice. Even if we have the knowledge and don't have the means, at least we can look to getting outside,
Yeah.
getting them inoculated in the ways that we know how, and you do
Let
the
him
best with
eat
what you
dirt
have.
and go barefoot and yeah.
100%. Let them
Yeah.
get covered in gross stuff. Let them get
Yeah.
outside. Let them play in the
Let them
mud.
pay,
Let them
let the
get
dog lick
dirty.
their face.
Get pets. Pets are a great way to inoculate, 100%. And that's the
Yes.
best we can do. So we got our first three stages, which is one in utero, two is through the birth canal, three is through breastfeeding, four is exactly that. It's through life, getting exposed, making friends, playing in the dirt, getting outside. These are the ways we can seed these microbiomes so that meadow grows into a rainforest and it becomes resilient. Even after antibiotics, it overgrows, it makes you healthy. 70 to 90% of your immune cells are grown and matured and actually living inside of your gut, in these gut, like your malt or your galt, we call it, this gut and mucus layer associated lymphoid tissues, your lymphatic system, and it all starts in the gut. And so it's very, very important to start early. The earlier set we have, the better a development we have, the more resistant or resilient we are. And the question might beg, well, what if I was one of these people who
Yeah.
was bottle fed in
Yeah.
C-section, etc.? And that's another topic we can definitely get into.
Yeah. So what do we do? I mean, do you just start using probiotics? Would, go roll around the grass? What do you tell people to do?
Well, all the above, provided the grass isn't sprayed with glyphosate, right? I mean,
Exactly.
so many things that are poison out there. What we look at is this. We know the information we have now. We know that your body will start to grow and inoculate the more we seed it in. But think of it like the thumbprint. Best case scenario is early on. The thumbprint, so to speak, will set between about 3 and 5 years old, right?
Mhm.
Your body will decide this is what our landscape's going to be. That will be the homeostasis it tries to come back to. It can always be changed. Most probiotics do die in the upper GI. A lot of them aren't actually living probiotics. If we look at pre, pro, and postbiotics, the prebiotic is like, think of it like fish in a fishbowl. The prebiotic is fish food. The probiotic is the living organism, the fish or the bacteria. The
Mhm.
postbiotic is fish poop, where your
Hmm,
bacteria eat food.
great
The living
example.
organism, thank you, the living organism poops out good things or bad things. And so a lot of the probiotics we take, they're already dead. So it's just the bacterial poop we're now eating, which have good benefits, immune modulating, signaling benefits to the
Mhm.
body. So what we can do is, yes, we can take probiotics, we can eat clean food, use the clean 15 list, the dirty dozen list, eat that organic stuff where you can. Like Tom O'Brien was saying through these stats, we can look at getting outside, touching people, hugging people. The worst thing we did during COVID was mask up, sanitize, and stay indoors. That
Yeah.
was the worst thing for our immune systems. Sunlight is very important, but it's the
Mhm.
seed oils and inflammation under the surface that leads to skin cancers. You can get
Right.
skin cancer in areas that have never seen the sun. So tell me it's just the sun that causes it, you know?
Mhm.
So you go for a skin cancer checkup, they check invasively every crevice
They
because
do.
even ones that don't
Yes.
see the sun. So
Yeah.
you can't tell me it's just the sun that causes it, right? So we have to look at that as well. It's probiotics. You can even get what's called spore biotics or spore
Yeah.
probiotics, which are like seeds, which make it down to the lower GI where 90+% of your bacteria live, right where the large and small intestine connect, and they can actually plant and grow in these areas. So there's all kinds of ways to get it in and start to continue to regrow and inoculate, but it's
Mhm.
really the core of our gut and gut health and wellness, which starts with those bacteria and making sure we're doing our best with the situation we have, rather than saying, screw it, throwing our hands up, eating, junk food, drinking
Junk.
beer and sugars and contributing to the problem.
Yeah, right. I want to back up just a little bit because I'm not sure all my
Please.
listeners know the difference between pre, pro, and postbiotics. Could you break that down for people? Because that gets confusing.
Totally. Let's go back to the fishbowl analogy, right? You have a fish in a fishbowl, you have to feed it, that fish poops. In a healthy ecosystem, say a fish tank, there are many species of plants and critters that actually
Mhm.
bottom feeders. They will eat the poop and upcycle it. In your body, it works the same. Prebiotics are the food that we eat. We eat and poop, so do your probiotics, your fish, the living organisms.
Mhm.
So things you eat, these fibers, for example, we can feed and they get fermented and turned into beneficial things and upcycled in your fish tank, your ecosystem of your gut. And that's
Mhm.
really what it is. Prebiotics are all kinds of things. They're fibers, mostly fibers, right? These things that your body eats and
Yeah.
consumes and then ferments or converts. Probiotics, we have 1 to 2,000 different species, arguably 7 to 9,000 different strains, which makes multi-millions, 15 to 20 million different types of bacteria, arguably up to 30 million different genetic species of strains. And they
Mhm.
multiply out to about 50 to 100 trillion bacteria, outnumbering us, again, depends who you ask, 10 to 1 or 2 to 1 or whatever it is. It's a lot. And so these are the probiotics, the living organisms in this ecosystem. Now, when we eat, we poop, so do your fish, so do your bacteria. And they poop out all kinds of beneficial things. Your bacteria help you detoxify. They help you clean the system. They help balance hormones. They help regulate your system. They help your immune system. They have anti-inflammatory properties. They produce vitamins like vitamin K and B vitamins are actually synthesized by your gut bacteria, made for your body to use. So we're constantly using and upcycling in this fish tank, our ecosystem in our gut. And that's the pre, pro, and postbiotic. Pre
Okay.
is food. Pro is organism, post is byproduct, be it good or bad. Now you do have a fish tank full of piranhas, you're trying to put a goldfish in there, it's gone, right? It's
Right.
going to get eaten for
It's
food.
done. Yeah.
This is why feeding prebiotics into a dysbiotic gut, which is an imbalanced gut bacteria ecosystem, people will all take prebiotics and feed my gut. Well, you could be feeding the piranhas. You could be feeding the bad guys. The dominant fish will eat first, which is why we have to look at balancing your gut if you want to reverse some of these diseases and then feed them accordingly. If you just throw food, you could be feeding the wrong guys.
I love that. I love that because, yeah, it's confusing for people. Like, why would I take a probiotic when I should just take a prebiotic and that'll feed all the good stuff? But you don't want to feed the piranhas. It's a really good analogy. I appreciate that a
Okay.
lot.
Another t-shirt.
Yeah, don't feed the piranhas. So good. I would like to like swing back to, well, maybe let me ask it this way. If somebody wants to start working on their gut, what would be the first three things that you would tell them to do, Josh?
Hmm. This answer has changed over the years. Because as you know, I specialize in Crohn's colitis. We see a lot of
Yes.
the worst gut disease. We see a lot of irritable bowel or irritable bowel syndromes without the you don't need a diagnosis. I want to state that for the record. A diagnosis means nothing. It's just one fancy medical word that we use to cast an umbrella upon all of our illnesses so we can name it. In the Western world, they treat disease as if it's innate to the biology. It's part of your DNA. They're inevitable. And all you can do is take medications, which are expensive and patented, to mask your symptoms.
Right.
We have to understand that everything in the body is cause and effect. Me
Mhm.
bending my arm is a cause and effect of muscles contracting or relaxing,
Right.
right? That's the first part of it. And then we have to understand that on a micro level, it's sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium moving in and out of the cells to allow that electrical contraction to occur. If I get pink eye, right? That's
Yeah.
bacteria entered. That's the cause. The effect is inflammation. Symptoms in your gut, there is a cause causing dysfunction, which presents as inflammation or irritation or dysfunction of some kind, which we lump into a category, give a diagnosis and a name to. So like a cookbook, we can go symptoms, check, you meet this many, therefore you have check. This diagnosis, therefore check, you get this drug in this order. If they don't work well, we can cut your organs out. I don't care if it's your gallbladder, your appendix, your bowels. They're looking to do a hysterectomy because their hormones are jacked up. There's a
Right.
reason why it's happening. Your body has dozens, if not hundreds, of mechanisms to keep this checks and balance, and everything can be fixed. We just need the right approach, and medicine only masks the symptoms, telling it to shut up. It doesn't fix the problem. The hostage is still in the living room. You just put tape over its mouth. You can't hear it, but it's still trying to wiggle free, and it's cutting its wrist on the rope trying to get out. We get more diseases. So
Wow.
that's the first thing
So
we have
good.
to understand.
Yeah, no, you definitely have to understand that.
So that's number one. Understand that your symptoms are not permanent. Your
Yep.
doctor, if they say they are wrong. If they don't know it, they're lying, either intentionally or unintentionally. That's number one. Number two, if we want to do anything, move anything around the body, we have to open drainage pathways. And this
Yes.
is something we need to talk about so much more. I know you know this. I
Oh,
know you've
yes.
talked about it. Drainage is how anything exits the body or even moves around the body. If you have a factory or construction site, you're trying to rebuild your house, repair the damage done. There's a hurricane came through, antibiotics, destroyed everything. The house is all disheveled. You want to repair it, you can do that. You can replace parts and move things around, but that construction crew is going to have waste products. They
Right.
have to go somewhere. You have to empty out the trash or it just piles up, makes it hard to walk around and move around in your own house. The same thing happens with your immune system. The more waste products you have, they have to exit the body. So drainage is how things get out. That's going to be your kidneys, your liver. It's going to be your sinuses, your lungs, your skin. These are exit pathways. You have movement or filtration systems, your kidneys, your liver, your lymphatic system. You have your bile ducts, these tubes where bile moves through. These are how things get through or out the body and filter and drain to exit. So many people try detoxes and they just get sicker. They get headaches, they get bloated,
Yeah.
they get nauseous because what you've done is you've dislodged toxins or you've taken all these bathtubs full of dirty water and dumped them down one drain that's full of hair. It's going to
Right.
overflow, it's going to flood the house, and now your floors are ruined. The same thing happens when you drain, you empty out your liver and your lymphatics and your skin and clear all the stuff out. It dumps down the drain and it overflows because your drainage is blocked.
Yep.
So we have to open drainage. That's number two. Number one, recognize this can be done. Symptoms are temporary. They're not permanent. No diagnosis under the sun is a permanent condition. I deal in ulcerative colitis, Crohn's, and IBS. They go, it's just genetic. Bullshit it is. It is a
No.
you are genetically prone to expressing inflammation through this way. But you put 10 people in a room, Laurie, expose them all to mold. One gets Parkinson's, one gets asthma, one gets arthritis,
Yep.
one gets Crohn's, one gets colitis, one gets IBS, one gets nothing. It depends on the individual. That's
Yep.
genetics. It's
Yep.
a propensity. So understand they can be fixed. Two, work on drainage. Three, we have to go through the 5 R's, which I know you've talked about. I think we talked about
Yep.
in the last one as well.
Yep.
You have to remove the problem. And you
Yep.
can't evict the tenants unless the doors are unlocked, which is why we need drainage. And so you have to remove the problem and go through that 5 R's process of remove, rebuild the microbiome, replenish the nutrients, or you have to rebuild or repair the tissues in the gut lining and rejuvenate the immune system. There's a lot of takes on the 5 R's, but that's how we use
Yeah.
it in colitis and Crohn's and gut disease. But that's the idea. Understand it can be fixed, open drainage, proceed with the 5 R's. And that's I know this is years worth of work condensed into a
Yes.
paragraph, but
Condensed
I know you
into just
understand.
this much. Yeah. And we
Yeah,
could
the
talk for
concept,
hours on this, Josh, completely. Yeah.
100%.
Man, I appreciate you being here so much. This is a great second conversation that we have. And so where can people find you? And all this will be in the show notes too for everybody listening, but I want them to know, hey, Josh is here.
Well, I love that. Thank you. Well, the best place to go, every information, if you're willing to look. I mean, some people click a link and they go, oh, I couldn't find it right away. You didn't try. Everything is available on the website. If you go to gutsolution.ca, that's gutsolution, all singular, .ca for Canada, gutsolution.ca. We have 2 podcasts. We have Reversible, which is all about the gut and how it interacts with our world and vice versa. We do talk about, bowel diseases, but I did start a second one just about Crohn's and colitis. So we have our Facebook group community about bowel disease. We have our podcasts about it. We have the gut health podcast. We have programs and courses and DIY stuff. All of it can be found by sending me an
Very
email at Gut
comprehensive.
Solution.
Yeah.
So we have our goal is to make our free stuff better than most people's paid stuff. So we have a lot of great stuff out there.
It is phenomenal. It is phenomenal. And I'm
Yeah.
trying to mimic some of your stuff, like not like copy your stuff, but
Oh,
like
copy away. It's
a ton of free stuff available for people. So we're working on that through on my website too. So
I love that.
I
The
love it
idea
because it's all about generosity, and that helps your microbiome too. Generosity, joy, emotions,
huge.
positive thinking.
I get so many people coming through just taking the free stuff and they go, I've never felt better. I learned more in this 20 minutes I did for my doctor in 10 years.
Right?
And that's what we want. We want people getting better. So everything can be found at gutsolution.ca.
Awesome, Josh. Thank you so much. God bless you. And hopefully we'll have you back again in the future.
I will look forward to it. Thanks, Laurie.
Thanks everyone for listening. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share, and I will see you in the next episode.